Hi, I thought in this blog I'd talk about the dispute at the Port of Auckland, which is obviously hotting up and really has the potential to be very big unless the Port of Auckland realise there's a deal to be had on the table and get back to the bargaining and settle it. But actually what the Port of Auckland are planning to do is something very vicious, something that is affecting a whole lot of New Zealanders around the country, and that is to remove themselves from the employment responsibility of these workers by contracting them out, effectively dismissing them all. Currently they all have a direct employment relationship with the port, and sending out tenders and saying to any company, come on in, run our stevedoring services and employ the workers in any way you like. And basically what that means is these suitcase companies, they don't bring anything, they don't bring the cranes, the shuttles, the port, all they bring is labour. Come in, tender for the work, the cheapest price, which clearly means when all you've got is labour, the cheapest labour price gets the work, and that requires complete compliance by those workers with the price that's set in the tender. And we've got that in other ports, and effectively what happens is that the workers are always aware that if they seek decent paying conditions, if they seek any sort of security of employment, they run the risk that another contracting firm will just come along, outbid the previous one and win the tender. We actually saw that once at the Port of Napier, where the Port of Napier decided to get rid of the contractor they had there, bring in a new contractor who was non-union, disorganised and paying a lot less in terms of wages. Interestingly, there they just locked the entire, or they actually sacked the entire workforce, so they weren't on strike, they weren't locked out, they were outside the gate. And the Port of Napier brought in their new workforce. Actually not a single ship sailed into that port for 8 days, as ship owners refused to bring their ships into the port to be worked by a replacement labour, and in the end the port was forced to re-employ the previous contracting staff and buy off, I suspect, the contract that it entered into. So it's by no means necessary that these stevedores will not win this dispute, but what a fight simply because their employer won't sit down and bargain with them over a decent employment agreement, and instead is trying to remove themselves from that employment relationship. We know that contracting makes work very dangerous. Workers are scared to raise health and safety issues. The contractor themselves is not responsible for the physical set out of the port, can't influence any health and safety issues to any great degree if they're concerned about them because they don't own the port, and the port itself has no interest in necessarily making the port safe because it doesn't have the health and safety obligations for those workers because it's not employing them. So all in all, it's a pretty dreadful situation. It's a situation that we see happening more and more to New Zealand workers, and that's why the Port of Auckland dispute is so important. It's so important that the port respects these workers, keeps employing them, doesn't casualise them and settles their employment agreement.